Today, I want to come to talk to you guys a little bit about social media and just kind of this whole idea of social media and what it means for us and how it affects our lives. There's no question that social media has affected our lives, that it affects our society. For many people, it's something that we engage in daily, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, texting, MySpace, Skype. We're all involved in it. We all seem to have some kind of page or thing devoted to us that lets everybody know who we are, at least the majority of us anyway. As I prepared this message, I thought about this whole idea of changing the world. How do we change the world? Something that came to my mind though is how much has social media changed the world already? People today are so connected to everyone across the planet that it's easy to communicate with somebody thousands of miles away almost immediately. Yet what I found is that sometimes the more connected we become, the further apart we actually grow in our relationships. We become individualistic and we seem separated and distant from one another. It's easy to meet new people without ever leaving your home these days. You can travel across the globe by tapping a screen. While you may not physically be there, you can see the places and meet people from anywhere in the world. But how much do we actually know about one another? It's become too easy to use social media sites to create fake personalities or hide who we truly are. We can pick and choose what we want people to know about us. We can alter pictures, write up bios that would make us seem like supermodels or superheroes in the world we live in. It's easy to become faceless, to put on a front that never really exposes who we actually are. But then there's the people who post anything and everything on Facebook. Every detail from the day they get married to their latest bowel movement can be posted for everyone to read and see. You're all familiar with that shorthand TMI. It's definitely rings true in these situations. These people's lives are on display for seemingly everyone to see, with no filter or care for who sees or reads what they have to say or what they plan to do next. If I was going to evaluate my own life, the relationships that I'm in, being an unmarried man, there are probably 5 people that know me at a fairly deep and personal level. They know my history, they know what I have and am currently struggling with, and they see me on a fairly regular basis, like daily kind of thing. And there are probably 10 people on top of that who see me almost every day. They know who I am, they know what I like, what I don't, and they know a fair bit about my story and where I'm from. On top of those 15 people, there's probably somewhere around 50 who know who I am. I have conversations with them weekly and generally know what's going on in my life. Now, because my job is kind of social and it's around a lot of people, it's in a fairly public setting, there's probably a couple hundred who would say that they know who I am. They would say they know some of my story and they say they would know kind of where I come from. But they don't really know a lot of detail. What I'm getting at though is that the number of people in my life, the friends I have on Facebook, the subscribers I have on YouTube, or the followers on Twitter make little difference to who I am as a person. My life, who I am, is not based on the stats and numbers. If tomorrow social media sites shut down, would that really change the relationship I have with those 15 people, with those 200? My first response would be, no, probably not. But social media has helped me to connect with these people and provided avenues for me to share, talk, and brainstorm as I do life with these people. What I hope to do through this video, through this talk, which funnily enough will be posted to social media sites to spread its message, is to talk about social media, our culture in North America as a whole, how it's influenced us both positively and negatively, and explore how we as Christians engage in it without creating a cheesy Christianized form of Facebook or YouTube. Unfortunately, I've already checked and there are some out there. They already exist. It's not enough to say that social media sites, instant messaging, text messaging has allowed us to stay connected with people in more ways than ever before. Any event that occurs will surely be shared, tweeted, or posted in a matter of minutes for anyone and everyone to see. Gone are the days where you have to make 15 different phone calls to tell people where you're meeting for lunch. Now a simple 3-word text message and your message will be shared with everyone you know. And it's received almost instantly. This increased communication has allowed artists, executives, and other minds to be able to collaborate and brainstorm together new products, music, or ideas that they're trying to create. The need to meet together or talk face-to-face on the phone is not as important anymore. Public forums and blogs help to raise awareness to the injustices that are occurring around the world and even in our own city. Social media can and has been used to trumpet the cry of the unheard, the forgotten, the unseen. Walls, timelines, and videos have become lightning rods for hot pressing issues going on in the world today. I heard one young person say once, "Why should I read the news? Why should I look at the newspaper? Why should I look at CNN when I'll see it on Facebook?" I laughed, but it's true. How true is that? We can join chat rooms, blogs, forums, where every issue under the sun gets discussed. National news agencies are already posting and providing pages to be liked or followed so that any urgent news hits, the story will be posted to your timeline. Let's not forget how these social websites help us reconnect with those old friends and family that we haven't seen in a long time. It's awesome that I can see my best friend from the 3rd grade, who's all grown up now. We can share stories and life experiences with a few keystrokes. But if I'm honest, that's normally where it stops. But hey, at least I got to hear how awesome his life has been, the places he's traveled, how many kids he has, and what kind of car he drives. How great is that I can find out all about the stuff from a person I haven't seen in over 15 years, who now lives on the other side of the country. Awesome. But hey, good thing I found out. Thanks to social media, now more artists and more businesses can share their ideas and their products than ever before. Promotion and networking has become easier and more accessible for anyone and everyone with the advancement and popularity of social media. I think that's a good thing. I guess it's safe to say with all the golden nuggets that social media helps to discover, we also find a lot of other nuggets that aren't so golden mixed in. All it can take for a new artist to succeed is to post a video on a site like YouTube and wait for it to go viral. Viral is a good thing, right? But after seeing what's out there, I'm not so sure. Some of the viral videos make it seem more like a disease that's spreading than a good thing that's actually bettering our society. Social media as a whole, though, definitely can add and help shape our culture, our relationships, and our businesses in positive ways. But there's always a negative side. I'm going to show you guys some numbers from a website, so please bear with me on social media, how it's invaded our culture and our lives. I hope those numbers didn't bore you, but I wanted to show you just how social media has become an addiction for many people. My goal is to raise awareness to this increasingly popular trend, not to condemn social media or condone it, but to remind everyone of the healthy balance that needs to be struck in a world that's becoming more and more digital and impersonal. Something that everyone seems to not have enough of is time. The development and popularity of social media certainly contributes to minutes or hours of a day that seem to vanish without anyone really knowing where it went. It's easy to be caught in the social media web while studying or working on projects. With almost everything being searched and resourced through the internet, social media sites are often logged in, and students, myself included at times, even during this time of preparing, are sucked into trolling through pages of random and trivial information about people we may or may not know. We look for any excuse we can use to draw our attention away from the work we're supposed to be doing. For students and people in general, it can often result in projects or assignments being done in the 11th hour or not at all. Procrastinating on social media sites can lead to deadlines being missed or added stress to complete a project so that's completed on time. We often think that we can easily multitask, and it's okay for me to have the page open because I'll just flip back and forth as I write my assignment or when I get stuck. When in reality it can really lead to a reduced ability to communicate, a loss of thought process, and poor quality of work. Sometimes I question when people say that it's hard for them to concentrate when they are at work or studying. I think there is some truth to that, but I wonder how much of it is our brains being conditioned to never sit still and not being able to focus on just one thing at a time. There almost always seems to be an unwritten rule that if you aren't multitasking, or if you can't, then there's something wrong and you need to work harder. Would it be better to do one job really well or two jobs half-hearted? I'm pretty sure I want the doctor that is operating on me to be completely focused on the task at hand and not checking on his Facebook or responding to the latest text message as my chest cavity is wide open. 50% of attention in that situation is not acceptable. So where's the line? Maybe we take it a little less life-threatening. Maybe we take it to coffee with your spouse. Well, potentially actually being life-threatening. But what comes across better? Devoting 100% of your time and focus to your spouse, or splitting your focus between your spouse and your phone? I'm not even married, and I'm gonna go with my spouse. Or your spouse. I guess I don't have one. I'm pretty sure liking Ted's awkward status about he loves pretzels can wait. I hope. Time spent using social media doesn't stop at your job, school, or your relationships. It can actually affect your health. Meals can get missed. Coffee or tea, caffeine, is used in excessive amounts in order to remain focused and active. You can become lethargic and unmotivated to make contact with the outside world. After all, what's the point if you can never know everything that's going on from the safety of your bedroom? I was reminded of a commercial I saw from Toyota that had a young woman sitting in a room glued to her computer. Essentially, she was talking about how she read an article online that said older people, her parents, are becoming more and more antisocial. Meanwhile, the camera cuts to clips of her parents mountain biking with their friends. The daughter finally gets them to join Facebook so that they can finally become more social. Parents have a total of 19 friends, it's discovered, and the daughter has over 600, which in her words is living. Again, the camera cuts to her parents mountain biking with friends. How true is that for many people? Would we actually rather sit at home and watch life through a computer screen? Or would we rather go out and experience it for ourselves? These next issues are going to be a little bit harder as they deal with a lot of personal and difficult topics. But sexting has become a widespread issue in social media, particularly amongst young people. While the intention behind the message may be for a private viewer, the implications and fallout from sexting can be drastic and uncontrolled. Once an explicit message has been sent, you can't bring it back. You also can't control where it goes from there. It's far too easy to post pictures and messages on public media websites for anybody and everybody to see. This is not always the girl's choice. Sometimes they are pressured by their boyfriends or spouses to send these messages, never taking into account the dangers and implications that could arise by sending them. I don't know if we really realize the dangers involved in sexting. It's permanent and easily shared picture or video that we can never have back. It can cycle through different hands, end up on public walls or news feeds, and destroy your integrity, reputation, and feelings of safety and security. I read a story about an 18-year-old woman named Jessie. She committed suicide after being harassed about nude photos that she'd sent to her boyfriend. After she'd broken up with him, he sent the pictures to her peers. The embarrassment and harassment eventually led to Jessie taking her own life. It's not to mention that sending or posting or publishing these photos or messages onto the internet puts us at risk of being seen by predators and other people that would use these images to harm and exploit us. It breaks my heart that young people would resort to sexting. Some might argue that it's actually better because no physical contact or interaction takes place and no consequences occur as a result, like unwanted pregnancies, sexually transmitted diseases or infections, or inappropriate contact. Does that really make it a better alternative? I don't think there is a better or worse option in this. Stories like Jessie's should be more than enough proof for us to realize the immense risk and pain that can occur because of sexting. I am left with a thought. As people become more and more comfortable expressing their sexuality, exploring and opening themselves up to different avenues to be sexually active, how much further or how much more open will they become when it comes to making the choice of having sex or not, or even sending more explicit messages or images again? I don't want teens or anyone to feel like they are less of a person, or that these desires and feelings make them dirty and evil. The reality is these desires and feelings are a part of life. God created us and God created sex. But God also put boundaries and limits on where and when and how sex should be handled. The overall desire or feeling is not wrong, but the action, intent, and place that it is expressed is. Is God honoring and natural for a man and wife to be sexually attractive and active with one another? But God is adamant that we need to limit sex to marriage. People will try and blur the lines and try to find loopholes that allow them to explore their sexuality, but ultimately it's a hard issue. Marriage is not the catch-all for sexual activity. Even within marriage, God has set limits to stay within. Sex was designed to be a beautiful and amazing thing that is shared between a husband and a wife. And that's where it should stay, within the marriage. That includes sexting. Without fully knowing who may see it, where it may end up, and how it gets used, it's not worth the risk of exposing what she meant to be the most intimate experience between a husband and wife. How many times has a friend or someone you know taken or stolen your phone when you aren't paying attention? How many times have they scrolled through your contents and changed different settings, or looked at your pictures, or looked at your videos, hacked your Facebook? Social media has created a lot of avenues for us to exploit sex. Unfortunately, this topic and the last can be linked. Sexual messages and images sent through text can get abused and seen by people that were never intended to see them. Bullying, harassment, and ostracizing can occur. This is no longer limited to face-to-face interaction. It's spread to social media. The effects of cyberbullying have been drastic. According to a website that Yale had conducted, a study showed that bully victims are 2 to 9 times more likely to consider suicide, and 10 to 14-year-old girls may be at an even higher risk, according to that same study. This is linked to both physical and cyberbullying, but the fact that social media has opened the door and provided alternative avenues for kids to harass or to be harassed are never fully safe is unbelievable. Bullying no longer stays in the classroom or on the playground. It's invaded the homes and bedrooms of young people. I can't imagine the stress and anxiety that this causes young people as they try and make their way through what can already be a complex and intense time of life. these stats are really unacceptable. We can't simply shrug off these facts and try and move on with our lives. The dangers and abuses of social media are real, and the challenges that they bring can change the lives of our young people. If we allow any of these things to continue or grow, what does that mean for the future? What can we do to change the world now? Addictions, loss of time, sexting, cyberbullying, on and on the list could go, the negative effects that social media might have. I'd never activate the cessation of social media. I think it can be a valuable tool in shaping and changing our culture for the better. But what I would advocate is more awareness and stronger protections and stances taken against abuses of social media. I don't think we can stop the spread of social media, but we can certainly change its focus and how it's used. I don't want to say that we should redeem social media, because there are poor attempts that have been tried at providing a Christian version or response to what's in the world. Has anyone ever seen any 80s or 90s Christian films or music? Instead of trying to create something separate, why not use what's in the world already to change the world? I'm not advocating sin for the sake of salvation, or the flirt to convert, or acting sinister to minister approaches. But if we aren't in the world, doesn't that mean we miss something that Jesus taught us? I think the first step we need to take is by changing the world that is around us. Be a voice in our schools, in our workplace, in our neighborhood, in our city, to stand up and speak out for the faceless, the forgotten, and the silent. Let's use social media and its limitless audience to publicly make a stand against the abuses of social media. Instead of boycotting, ignoring, or trying to shut down social media, let's change the atmosphere and focus. Let's use what's already popular and easily accessible to encourage, equip, build up, and support one another. Let's fight the apathetic nature and culture that we have created by reaching out to the abused and the abusers. Let's step offline and work through these issues in real settings with real people. Let's stop hiding who we are behind a profile picture and a biography. Let's stop using websites to hurt and destroy. Let's stop turning a blind eye to the problems that occur in the world around us. Let's start by creating safe groups and resources for people to get help. Let's start by changing our focus. Let's start by pointing people to the only hope. Let's start by showing the love of Christ to all people. Let's start by being salt and light. Let's start by finding our identity in Christ. What if we created a culture where sexting, cyberbullying, and apathy or addiction were dealt with, and we provided websites or methods for people to deal with these issues? Maybe this means creating groups online and offline that protect, encourage, and support everyone, the victims and instigators, helping them find the support and help they need to deal with what they're going through. This could be making public declarations online and offline of social and ethical standards, and providing safe places for people to meet, by loving people the way that Christ loved us and wants to love others. I think as Christians it's easy for us to tell others that they should love God and love others. But are we actually doing it? Are we doing it the way that God wants us to? Do we even know how? And I'm reminded of what it says in Matthew 22, verse 37. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment, and the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Love God with your heart, soul, and mind. 1 Corinthians 13 says, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things and endures all things. To me, it seems like love is not about us at all. For us to love God and to love others, it seems like it's outward focused. It's not about me and my needs or what I think it should be. It's about God, giving everything to Him and loving others when it's hard, when it bothers us, when it makes us cringe and fume, and when it sucks. It's not always going to be easy, and we shouldn't be doormats. That's often a misconception of what love means. That we just let people walk all over us and be okay with that because it's all in the name of love. No, love can mean rebuking, correcting, teaching, disciplining. Hebrews 12 speaks on this, and in verse 6 it says, "For the Lord disciplines the one He loves, and chastises every son whom He receives." So as we engage in social media, we need to be standing firm in our faith, loving God and loving people offline and online, finding the areas that people are attacked, abused, cast out, showing them who Christ is by how He has changed us and what He's doing in us. We need to reflect Him in our own lives. We're going to screw up and we're going to fail, but it's how we fail that people will see. It's our response to it. I think first we need to stop rushing around. We need to stop busying ourselves and trying to multitask. We need to bring focus into our lives, and we need to start doing that by focusing on God. James 1:19 says, "Let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger, for the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. Therefore put away all filthiness and rampant wickedness, and receive with meekness the implanted word, which is able to save your souls. But be doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves." We need to slow down and listen to people. We need to pay attention to people, to show them that we value their time and not rush around and try to talk to 20 different people through Facebook and texting. Let's get to know them. Let's get rid of this faceless social media culture that has been created. We need time to get to know people, to hear people, to show them that we love them, and actually follow up with them on how they're doing. And not just give the quick band-aid response of, "Oh, it'll get better," and that the problems aren't actually that important to us. It's to stop feigning interest in what they're passionate about. I think our social media culture has created an atmosphere of busyness and connecting with multiple people and quick, short messages. But maybe what we need to start doing is turning off the phone, signing out of Facebook or Twitter, and start engaging in real, meaningful ways with people. Is that what we need? Maybe we need to spend an hour with a few people instead of 50 people. We need to change the LOL culture and actually connect with people on deeper levels. Sitting down with them and engaging with them at where they're at. Taking time out of our life and schedule to let them know that they are loved and appreciated. If this is something that we need to be doing with other people, as Christians, how much do we need to be doing that with God? We need to be spending more time one-on-one with God, engaging in relationship with Him, loving Him, hearing from Him. Whatever that looks like, whether it be experiencing His creation, reflecting on His Word, going for a run and talking with Him, or worshiping Him with song. Whatever drives us and brings us to a place of engaging God on a deeper, intimate, and personal way, we need to have that in our lives if we expect to be showing that to others. If we fill our lives with all these distractions, we may view God as a sometimes thing. Just as often as we get our relationships with people by avoiding meaningful connection, how much do we do that with God? Do we text God, taking only a few minutes to shoot off a quick message of our needs for the day, without ever actually spending intentional time with Him? It's not bad to maybe text God, just like it's not bad to text people, but if that's what our relationship is, how are we actually growing in it? Would a friendship really survive in your life if all you did was text? If you never spent time with that person or shared a mini conversation, would you actually grow? Why do you think you can do that with God? Why do you think or show that our relationships with Him is just something to get out of the way and to check off our list? How honoring is that to God? Do we actually value who God is and what He did for us? If we would spend more intentional time with the God of the universe, I think it would go a long way to how we spend time with everyone around us. From my personal experience, when I'm deeply engaged with God daily, my love for people, the patience that I have, the humility and peace that I receive, is amazing, that it overflows into how I show love to the people around me. Too often we believe the lie that tells us, well, I'm just one person. And while that might be true, that you are one person, how much of history has been shaped by just one person? By influencing the people around them to change the world or culture they live in. Maybe it means saying something when no one else will, or not saying something when everyone else is. Maybe it's standing up when everyone else is turning away, or sitting down to meet people where they're at. Change isn't going to happen if no one does anything. All it can take is one person to start or stop something. Let's stop creating a faceless generation that has no time for one another. Let's start meeting people and listening to them, listening to their stories and showing that the love of God calls us to have for them. If we can do that, maybe we can change the world.